This show is sponsored by Alicia's Pillows and Things. Check out the Facebook page, Alicia's Pillows and Things, where you will find home decor you will not be able to resist at prices anybody can afford. Check out the pillows and stools of your favorite sports teams. Maybe you want a set of your kid's favorite cartoon or movie character. You can also get full body and neck pillows as well. Log on to ngscsports.com and go to the Alicia's Pillows and Things tab on the homepage to complete your order. It makes a great gift for Christmas at an affordable price. NGSC Sports. We never stop.
You're listening to NGSC Sports Radio. Hear us live on ngscsports.com, where you can get awesome analysis for all things sport. Or check out our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, iTunes, TuneIn, and much more. For our latest videos, head to NGSC Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at NGSC Sports and like us on Facebook. NGSC Sports. We never stop.
I've always been curious since I haven't watched that movie in a long time. If that movie holds up.
It's not terrible.
Okay.
I mean, it pops up I watched it a few weeks ago because I was working all night and it was on MTV at 1 in the morning.
Okay.
So we watched Billy Madison and I laughed hysterically because it's what I do when I watch Billy Madison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Norm Macdonald, of course, also great in that movie.
Oh, he was just terrific. He was so horrible. It was terrific.
I don't remember.
What did he do? What did he do? Dare you ask? He played Norm Macdonald.
Did you ever watch Dirty Work?
Who was in Dirty Work? Was it Norm and who else?
Artie Lang, and I think it's the girl from Two Guys and a Girl in a Pizza Place.
Jenna Elfman?
Was
that her?
I don't think that's Jenna Elfman. I thought Jenna Elfman was in Dharma and Greg.
She was. I was thinking, I can't remember who was in the other two girls and two guys, a girl and a pizza place.
Two guys.
I was about to say, one of us is about to Google this.
Yeah, two guys, a girl. Let's see. Which, of course, went about 8 name changes. Let's see. Who was the cast? What's the cast?
2 guys or something.
Trailer Howard? Huh. Interesting.
Oh.
That's her name, is Trailer Howard.
Trailer.
Like Traylor.
Huh. Taylor, I can see. Trailer, that's...
Yeah.
Different.
Of course, something I always forget about until I go back to the Wikipedia page for this show. Nathan Fillion was in this.
Really?
Yes, he was.
Fantastic.
Right. As was Suzanne Cryer. So
Hits keep coming.
they really do. Who knew this wouldn't be Ryan Reynolds' big break for the rest of his life?
Speaking of Ryan, I just saw Ryan Reynolds about 20 minutes ago.
Really?
Yeah, we went. I took the gal friend to see Hobbs and Shaw tonight. She wanted to see it.
Yes, I forgot he's in that movie. Yes.
Yes, he does. He has. He basically steals the scene about 3 times. he just basically takes over the movie at 3 different little spots.
Well, I mean, that's what you're paying Ryan Reynolds for.
Yeah, just totally does 100%. Just him playing off the rock is very
There's very nice.
very nice. So I've seen 2 movies today now.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, is right.
Well,
And now I get to drive home from Jacksonville.
what better way to spend your time recording the Foreign Affair podcast than driving home from J Actionville.
Something's got to keep me awake.
There you go. This podcast won't be it, unfortunately. Welcome, everyone, to episode 280 of the Foreign Affair podcast. If you hear a car crash in the background, that's Wes, because he did not manage to stay awake through this. But that's okay. We're going to do our darndest to keep him awake with some exciting matches from the Premier League and Champions League week in review here. We'll also, of course, as always, hit the news and notes, and we do have a bit of a watch for, and maybe a little bit even of that So Elite Raw we've been getting the last few weeks added on here at the end. As always, the podcast is presented by NGSC Sports at ngscsports.com. We never stop, as well as Alicia's Pillows and Things. Hey, you know what? I gotta tell you, if you're I don't know, who had a rough week? Who had a rough week? I don't know.
Like anyone not named the New England Patriots?
Yeah, sure. If you're a fan of any team that's not the New England Patriots, you know, hey, unless you're also a Dallas Cowboys or Oakland Raiders fan, then you also suck. But
I'm a damn cowboy.
I'm sorry, I forgot. I was contractually obligated to say they're America's team. There you go.
Oh, also in that contract, we must call them Dem Boys.
Yes, dem boys. Oh my god! But if you're a fan of one of those teams and you want to, hey, maybe here's what it is. Here's what it is. You're an Oakland Raiders fan and you're super sad that your team moved to Las Vegas, and now instead of getting to spend your Sundays going to that shithole they played in and dressing up like a maniac and pouring beer on poor camera people, now you can do something else with your life, and maybe that thought scares you. Maybe you need a body pillow to keep you safe at night when these dark, dark feelings creep in. Well, that's why you head over to Alicia's Pillows and Things and get yourself an Oakland Raider body pillow. Maybe it's of Al Davis's emaciated corpse that will be on there, and you can hold that tight and remember the good times. Back when you lost a Super Bowl to Brad Johnson, when he was with...
Yeah. Oh, the dark horse, Brad Johnson.
Oh man, that was not a good Super Bowl. But you know what? You were in it, and that's what matters. Just like that guy who was the quarterback for the Bears that one time when they lost to Indianapolis.
Oh, that was Rex Griffin.
There you go. So, you know.
I thought you were going way back to Tony Eason.
Oh, God. Oh, my NFL year by year is slowly being deleted. So, we're just fortunate I still remember Brad Johnson at this point. Hey, but you know what? You know, I'm sorry, Oakland Raiders fans, you also probably remember him very well from the Super Bowl where he dismantled you by being Brad Johnson somehow. But again, visit Alicia's Pillows and Things. Get your pillows and or things on discount there. Check out her Facebook page as well as NGSC Sports for some sweet, sweet deals on her merch. That's Alicia's Pillows and Things. All right.
Raiders.
There we go. So as we go to the Premier League, definitely, who are the Oakland Raiders of the Premier League, Wes Bradshaw?
The Oakland Raiders of the... I mean, that's easy. It's Newcastle.
There you go. The black and white.
Black and white. They have the rabid fan base.
They have a shitty owner.
They have a shitty owner. Yeah, shit owner. And they have history, and they like to talk about it.
Yeah, and they haven't done a whole lot lately.
They haven't done shit lately.
Sorry, Rafa. Sorry. So anyway, we'll talk about them later when we talk about Liverpool. But first, Premier League matches that didn't really matter. Hey, it almost mattered for Sheffield. They thought they might have been able to pull off a 1-0 win versus Southampton, but unfortunately a goal was reversed through VAR, and instead Musa Dienempo, was the eventual match winner for the Saints as he scored in the 66th minute to give Southampton 3 points at Bramall Lane. Elsewhere, Chelsea 5, Wolves 2. Wolves, maybe getting into slightly crisis time. We'll see. And hey, Tammy Abraham, he had a hat trick. Maybe Tammy Abraham was exactly what Chelsea needed. Maybe.
May I throw out the Chelsea stat of Chelsea stats?
Please do.
Chelsea have scored 11 goals this season.
Mm-hmm.
All 11 have been by homegrown, under 21 English players.
Oh, I love reading about Frank Lampard's youth revolution. That was absolutely his own idea and was not brought about by the fact that a transfer ban meant they couldn't buy anybody this summer.
Exactly. And that the best player in the club forced his way out around the trip.
What a master stroke. Oh, Frank Lampard.
Because Tammy Abraham has just shown before, this is going to be Tammy. It's Tammy's team now.
It's Tammy time, baby. You thought it was Tanner time? No, it's Tammy time.
Tammy.
Oh my God. Anyway, Chelsea beats Wolves.
Tammy here.
Chelsea beats Wolves 5-2, and maybe if this keeps going a couple weeks, maybe we'll start talking about Wolves. It's kind of falling off a little bit. Anyway, Brighton and Hove draw 1-1 with Burnley. Burnley get a very, very late equalizer in the 91st minute through Jeff Hendrick of Hendrick Motorsports as they get the 1-1 draw there. Yeah, we're not going to talk too much about some of these other matches, I think, just because, the big results happened. Tottenham blitz Crystal Palace 4-0, scoring all 4 goals in the first half. Heung-min Son, with, I believe, his first start of the Premier League this season, gets a brace. Patrick Van Aanholt adds an own goal in the 21st off a Serge Aurier cross, and Eric Lamela Coco got on the board on the day in the 42nd to put the route on for Tottenham. Other matches included Bournemouth destroying Everton 3-1. Callum Wilson with a brace there. Watford, you know what? Before we get to that, we'll start with that one in our little more talk section. That's the official name for it. Aston Villa and West Ham drew 0-0. There was a red card.
Revolutionary football right there.
Yeah, just amazing. Great times had by all on Monday Night Football on NBC Sports. Anyway, so that was it. Also, Manchester United beat Leicester 1-0 through a penalty. Marcus Rashford nailed it. It's great. So, let's talk about...
Big news there, Manchester United have scored a penalty.
I know! Crazy, right?
No one thought about it.
All right, so we have 3 matches we're going to talk about. Watford 2, Arsenal 2 is where we start. Arsenal flying high in the first 30 minutes as Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang hits the brace for the Gunners. Watford were not to be dissuaded, though. Everything good?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. Tom Cleverley, though, strikes back for Watford in the 53rd minute. And then late on... Poor David Luiz, just not having a good year, along with Shakhtar and Mustafi. Roberto Pereira...
Anyone who plays in the middle for Arsenal.
That's true. Roberto Pereira calmly takes the penalty in the 81st minute. That gets Watford a point as they are back under the management of Quique Sanchez-Flores. Watford with the big point there as Arsenal capitulates on the road, Vicarage Road to be exact. And now... all of a sudden, Wes, we've hit peak Arsenal fan TV as the calls for Unai Emery's head have become loud and clear. Mostly from the fact that it doesn't seem like he actually has a plan anymore. People I've noticed are very frustrated by that. Now, other people like us, as we just mentioned, Wes talking about their center backs, it's not a very good defense. And that's to put it nicely, I think. And they, as I texted Wes earlier this week, I was like, Arsenal kind of putting together their team through the Liverpool playbook, but they stopped a few sections short where you start improving your defense and your goalie, and because they haven't really done that part yet. They got a great front three. It's fantastic when Alexander Lacazette's healthy. the rest of the park leaves something to be desired. Granted, Xhaka not doing very well. But I guess, Wes, what we need to get into here, the match is the match. But with these calls, is there a realistic chance that Arsenal might be quick to move on from Unai Emery this early in the season?
I can't see it at all.
Okay.
That Arsenal will move on from Unai Emery, especially this early in the season. I don't think for this whole year. I mean, boys, we've got to remember this is an organization, a club that probably held on to Arsene Wenger about 5 years too long.
True.
A quick trigger is not really their cup of tea. If anything, this is going to drag on way too damn long. Here's my thing with Arsenal. I still think Arsenal are good enough in this Premier League season to finish in the top, I don't want to say top four at the moment, but, I mean, they could still be. That's the thing. They've got the firepower up front. Yeah, they're basically playing a game of 2013-14 Liverpool. Trust me, been here, done this. It's exciting. If nothing else, it's exciting. They've had a few things just kind of go against them early in the season. But you know what? They've had some things go their way, too. I mean, this Arsenal team's still pretty good. I think their midfield's going to be better than we think it is.
Okay.
Defensively, they are a shambles. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. On top of that, I mean, we know they suck on the road.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I mean, I think they won a road match earlier this season. Oh, the troubles are over. No, it means they got lucky and won one match on the freaking road. It doesn't mean crap right now. Arsenal suck on the road. It's just what it is at this point. But with that firepower up front, they're good enough to finish comfortably in the top part of the league. Now, fighting for that Champions League spot, it might get a little difficult there. That said, call me crazy, I've just got a feeling that David Luiz is going to improve some.
Okay.
He can't be this bad, can he?
Can't he?
Oh, wait, never mind. He's David Luiz. No, I do think they'll calm down a little bit. Mesut Ozil was back and actually played pretty damn well this weekend.
He played okay.
Go figure. Had a really, really super pass for one of those goals. I'm not quite as down on Arsenal. And trust me, I mean, I understand when you lose or you blow a lead, people want to flip their gasket. I mean, trust me, the Klopp out people are out this week.
That's mind-boggling. We'll get to that later.
What more can the man do? The Klopp out people are already starting to chime in. Anyway, so you've got you can't really trust fan bases anymore, especially when it's Arsenal TV. Yeah, here's the thing. How many rational fans have you ever seen on Arsenal TV?
I will say this. I was the one who brought up Arsenal Fan TV. Because we have to get in our weekly plug for it. The Athletic is amazing. You should all subscribe. I will say the comment section on the Arsenal article for the week was also not very supportive. And as we've discussed on this podcast, the comment section of Athletic articles tends to be much more rational and even keel than most other forms of social media out there.
A little more analytical.
Yes, just by a little bit. A lot better spelling generally too. But the mood there, obviously, as you said, the mood when you blow a 2-0 lead like that, especially to a team that has just come off of firing their coach and only had 1 point coming into this game, understandable. But to see that group of people, Arsenal Fan TV, I would expect it from. To see the Athletic comment section also saying, "Nah, I think it's time for Emery to get out," is telling. Not saying I agree with it, but it is telling that what is normally a pretty even keel group of people is also starting to jump ship a little bit on this.
The one thing thing I could say, and Ed, we said this going back to last season.
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal was not a quick fix. It was going to be a long-term project.
Mm-hmm.
And, they brought in Unai Emery. There's not another big-name manager that's taken the Arsenal job.
What about
all these people?
I was going to say, I don't remember. The name is escaping me right now, but it's the guy Conte replaced.
Allegri.
Yeah, him. He's the only one I can think of.
I don't think Allegri's touching Arsenal right now.
I wouldn't say he should. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think Allegri. I think if Allegri's holding out for a job in England, I think he's holding out for one of the bigger jobs. I really think, depending on how the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer experiment ends up at United, I think Allegri could be the next manager of Manchester United.
Sure, I would see that.
But I don't think Arsenal interests them because, with Arsenal, you're not getting the resources. And people, they spent money this summer. Did they? They sort of did. And the deal is they're paying for all these guys for the next 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Which means, they got some guys in this summer, and it looks nice on paper, but is the money going to be there to improve that defense? Is the money going to be there to improve that midfield? If you ask me, not really.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll see what happens there. But we always knew Arsenal was going to be a project. I think at this point, the absolute best thing Arsenal can do is just keep faith in Unai Emery and see where you are by the end of this season.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing he can't do, he cannot regress.
Yeah.
But if he can hold at that 5 spot, maybe slide himself into that 4th spot in the Champions League, that's literally the best you can ask for the Emery this year.
Well, we will see if he is given the time to do it, and if the players and the fan base and the board keep on believing in him. We talked about Klopp out. We'll get to that. But definitely the fans were still on board with him this past weekend as Liverpool got past Newcastle 3-1.
We say fans with the Dr. Evil air quotes.
Yes, fans. Jetro Willems. Oh, what a great goal, though, for Newcastle to start things off in the 7th minute to give their fans just a little bit of hope, only to have it cruelly snatched away. Sadio Mane with a pair of goals in response in the first half, and then Mo Salah, I guess they've made up, with the goal in the 72nd minute to complete the 3-1 victory for Liverpool as they remain unbeaten on the season, 15 out of 15 points. And Wes, we can bank all this time for later if you want to, but I'm sure you have some thoughts on this match.
Just a few in there. That Jetro Willems goal was just spectacular.
It was great.
Then when you think about that, he cut inside and did that off his weak foot.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that ball was a freaking missile, man.
No chance.
And he did that off his weaker right foot. So, great shot from him. In this match, Divock Origi goes out injured. Roberto Firmino had not started, basically just due to the fact that he had played for Brazil this past week and had to travel basically halfway around the world to get that match. Klopp was always going to play him if needed, but wasn't going to start him. He comes on around the 30-plus minute mark. And that dude just absolutely took over that match. Roberto Firmino and Virgil van Dijk are the 2 players that Liverpool cannot live without one or the other, I don't think. Firmino is so important and does everything up front. And then he got his absolute highlight reel setting up the Mo Salah goal.
Mm-hmm.
Just an absolute sweet play it off one, back heel it right into the wake of Salah. Salah goes in, scores a nice goal to cap that game off. Right now, Roberto Firmino can definitely throw his hat in the ring as being the best player
Okay.
Firmino's as good as anybody right this second, and he went out and showed it. And for Liverpool, it's another case of next team up, next team down, Fortress Anfield, all the little fun things we like to say. At the end of the day, as you said, 15 out of 15 for Liverpool. They're the only unbeaten team in the Premier League. They're the only perfect team in the Premier League. And as we'll talk about with our next match, right now I think the teams below have got to be looking up, going, "Oh shit, is this the year?"
Well, and that is where we're going to head off to our final match. And we said in our preview for this season that Norwich had a chance to be really bad. They also had a chance to be super exciting. Maybe like a budget Bournemouth, where with the way they like to attack teams, maybe they'll get blown out some games, but they might also be competitive, get some 3-3 matches in there, and just play some fun football. Well, sometimes you play that way, and the football gods look down on you and smile and say, "We like when teams play exciting football. We're not fan of that bus parking. So here's one on us, Norwich. This one's for you guys." Timo Pukki, Player of the Year right away in the Premier League. This is the man, taking the Premier League by storm. He has the eventual match winner as Norwich beats Manchester City 3-2. Sergio Aguero and Rodri with goals in the match for City, both trying to cut the deficit, the 2-goal deficit, to 1. They could not get any closer as Norwich beats City in Carrow Road, upending the Premier League race. Now, we do have to remember, City, I believe, lost 4 matches last year, and Liverpool lost 1, and City won the Premier League. So let's just remember that. Let's also realize that this was a very weird City loss, where it wasn't like a fluke. They just actually looked bad on the day. Like, they looked really, really bad. And part of that's due to injuries, as we'll get to in news and notes. Part of that's just that they looked bad and Norwich took it to them. And with that style of football, if you're not on 100% of your game, you have a chance to get beat. Norwich gave themselves a chance to win that game. And as much as we can, I think, also talk about City and talk about how poorly they performed on the day, 100% credit to Norwich. This was fantastic. The fans who were there, take this one with you. This might be your biggest moment this year in the Premier League, but take it. You earned it. Keep playing this style of football. It's amazing. You guys deserve this one.
As they would say, famous victory for the Canaries.
Yes, famous.
First of all, let's just give Norwich, as you were, let's give them the props.
Yeah.
This is a team that came in with 11 players out injured.
Yeah.
11 first-team players out injured. They could have done what nearly every other non-Big Six team does against City. They could have sat back, clammed up, tried to just make it ugly, and try to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Norwich said, "F that noise. We're coming to play our game." Just like they did against Liverpool, just as they've done all season. They came out and played their game. And with their game, like you said, it's high risk, high reward. Against Liverpool, they got burned.
Mm-hmm.
Against Man City, everything came up Canaries on the day. And as you said, Timo Pukki, I talked about Bobby Firmino. Pukki is right up there of being the informed man in the Premier League right now.
Absolutely.
A guy who was a failure in Spain, a failure in Germany, a failure in Scotland. But my God, he's come to the Premier League and he's lighting the world on fire. Pukki!
We love a good Pukki.
So, there we go. Good talk about Norwich. Now we got to talk about City.
Yep.
How bad right now do Man City fans, and silently, because he'll never say it out loud, Pep Guardiola, how pissed are they that they did not sign Harry Maguire?
Very. such a different team with him.
I mean, that I think is where the unbridled Liverpool optimism for the league is coming from right now, is that Manchester City back line. A week ago, they lose Emerick Laporte he won't be back at best till maybe April. Mm-hmm. And then you're talking about throwing him back in when he's, we know how recovering from an ACL works. You can put him back in. Look at Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. He was ready to play last May, and he's still not back right yet.
Yeah.
So, that's very, very ambitious thinking they're going to have him back for that stretch run. But Laporte was such an important piece for Man City, and literally the back line is what threw it away against Norwich. Nicholas Otamendi, God, the fact that he's still playing for Manchester City just has to make their fans want to vomit in their mouths.
Yeah.
He gave that one away. He and John Stones together are just completely awful. And I guess you could say, well, at least you don't have to worry about John Stones for a while now. As we maybe get to later in the news.
Yeah.
But, Manchester City in is an absolute shambles in the back. I don't really give a shit what they did in the Champions League. They've got a gimme group. We know that.
Oh, yeah.
But going forward in the Premier League, because remember, everything plays out in the back for City. That's how they play. Mm-hmm. And suddenly your only healthy central defender is Nicholas Otamendi.
Yeah.
The one who, if you had to lose one, you would have easily said, take him as tribute.
Yep.
And now he's the one you're stuck with. I guess Fernandinho's going to go into the back now, but, man, City could be in trouble, and it might not turn into losses, but it could be draws. And there's going to be another loss or two in there, I think, down to these injuries. City are in some trouble right now in the Premier League.
Yeah, we can we can talk a little bit about how they lined up in their match against Shakhtar today. Let's see. I know they played Fernandinho in the back. Who did they pair? They paired him with Otamendi. So yeah, that's
Well, they not. Unless you pull Kyle Walker out there.
It's time to play three at the back, City. Oh boy. Anyway, so we'll get to their Champions League match in a little bit. But yeah, this is going to be a rough road for City. You know what? This really reminded me of Pep's first year in the Premier League and watching that City team play when they weren't super comfortable with how he wanted his play style and they weren't incredibly dominant. We love giving Pep shit on this podcast. It's not a secret, folks. We respect him, but we give him a lot of shit. What you're seeing is how important, possibly to a fault, his brand of football and his system is to Manchester City. Because the team is literally living and dying by it right now. And without the key pieces in the back, if you want to call John Stones a key piece, you see how much this breaks down and the problems that can come out of it. Now, maybe Fernandinho is the answer.
Much more Laporte.
yes, much more Laporte. And hey, we didn't mention it. He wasn't healthy a lot, but Vincent Kompany ain't there either anymore. And that would at least be, hey, he's better than Otamendi. So, it's going to be very interesting, especially in the Premier League, to see where City goes from here. As they try for a domestic three-peat. It will be miles tougher. If they thought last year was tough, and it was, it's only going to be tougher this year.
I'll say that, and as a Liverpool fan, this is, I'm a Liverpool fan, obviously we know that. I think this is a Liverpool squad that learned from last year and is mentally stronger than they were a year ago. Mm-hmm. And we've already seen a couple of these matches away to Burnley. Those kind of matches that have been the banana peel for Liverpool in the past. I don't think Liverpool
Well,
So City are going to have to get this turned around. They're going to get it turned around quick if they want to try to retain that Premier League title.
well, don't worry, folks. It's going to be what should have happened last year. Liverpool's going to win the Premier League, and City's going to actually end up winning the Champions League. So there you go.
There we go.
There you go, folks. The Premier League does march on this weekend, starting Friday Night Football on NBC Sports. Southampton versus Bournemouth at 3 p.m., so check that out. On Saturday, you have 5 matches starting at 7:30. Big one here, Leicester hosting Tottenham. That will be a dynamic affair. At 10 a.m., you get Everton versus Sheffield. City back at it, this time at home against Watford. Burnley will be taking on Norwich, and that's a clash of styles right there if I've ever seen one at Turf Moor. And at 12:30, it will be Newcastle versus Brighton Hove in the primetime slot. Then on Sunday at 9 a.m., you get the choice of West Ham versus Manchester United or Crystal Palace versus Wolves. And 11:30, you could watch Arsenal versus Aston Villa, or you can watch Chelsea-Liverpool. I'm not telling you which one to watch, but if you pick one of them, know that I will call you an idiot. I'll let you decide which one that is.
What I'm going to say about that is Wes Bradshaw may be making his first appearance at the London Bridge Pub this Sunday.
Hey, London Bridge for the match at Stamford Bridge. There it is. And hey, now, you know what? I got to say that this Liverpool team is going to have a tough time. Frank Lampard, with his youth revolution that he has instilled through his own sweat and geniusness, is just going to be such a tough test for this Liverpool team. In all fairness, this probably will be their toughest Premier League match of the season so far. And
Frank Lampard, 2 words come to mind, Ed. Stunning and brave.
Oh, it's brave to replace your headphone jack. All right, so that's the Premier League schedule for this weekend. As we take a look at the table, Liverpool are on top with 15 points. City still second with 10. There is a cluster of teams at 8 points, starting with Tottenham, then Manchester United, Leicester, Chelsea, Arsenal, and West Ham. Then at the bottom of your heart, the relegation zone, Aston Villa through goal differential sit just outside of it with 4 points. Newcastle just inside in 18th place with 4 points as well. Wolves right now on 19th place with 3 points. And Watford, with their draw against Arsenal, get up to 2 points. Wolves and Watford still have yet to find their first win of the season. So that is your Premier League talk. Let's hit to the Champions League. The group stage has started, and the champions. TNT's still doing it with Bleacher Report. That's cool.
I will give Bleacher. I will say one nice thing about Bleacher Report.
Okay.
Is I did watch the Liverpool-Napoli match on the Bleacher Report app. It was not nearly as difficult to order my match this year as it was last year.
It's good. That's good.
As in, on my cell phone, things actually came up like they were supposed to, and it looked like, it didn't look like whoever coded everything last year fell asleep halfway through.
Wonderful. Well, we will get to that match in just a moment. But first, we start alphabetically, of course. We go to Group A. Club Brugge and Galatasaray drew 0-0. Good for you guys. And then Paris Saint-Germain blasted Real Madrid 3-0, announcing that, yes, PSG are absolutely here in a match that isn't the knockout round. We are here to play and put down a beatdown.
Don't forget who they didn't have play for them today is almost makes it that much more impressive.
That's true, which is why Di Maria on the score sheet with the brace, and Thomas Meunier with the sealer in the 91st minute. Also, I was only like half paying attention to the match as it started, and I was wondering why a lot of the fans were cheering for a Real Madrid goal to start off with, and then I finally picked up, PSG's at home in white and Real Madrid is in dark blue, but why? It doesn't make sense. Anyway. I think, though, the big thing is, and we don't want to take away too much from just one result and to start the Champions League against what should be the 2 teams to make it out of this group. Real Madrid might be in a little bit of trouble, though. Not to get out of this group. I'm saying if their goal is to win the Champions League this year, which it should be because they're Real Madrid, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely do not look like a team that is capable of going and winning this competition. I'll just, you know me, folks, I'll use Liverpool as my examples. We'll obviously talk much more about Liverpool later, but where Madrid go on the road and lose 3-0 to PSG, Liverpool will go on the road and lose 2-0 to Napoli. One of them instilled a whole hell of a lot more confidence in you.
Oh, yeah. I would agree with that.
One of them might have gotten beat, but it was like, okay, a little hard done. The other one, it's like, oh, wow, it was only 3-0. Yeah, man, wow, Real Madrid looked brutal. They looked slow. They looked bereft of ideas. Eden Hazard, I mean, was he even there today?
Allegedly, yes.
Allegedly, I heard his name. I heard them mention, wow, he hasn't done shit today. Those exact words on Talk Sport, I believe. He hasn't done shit today. You know the one guy who looked really good for Real Madrid?
Who's that?
That's the mighty Welshman. Gareth Bale looks fucking phenomenal for Real Madrid. Did you see the disallowed goal that he scored?
Yes, that was a shame.
Holy Jesus, that was magnificent. I mean, it was legit. I mean, it did actually hit his hand in the build-up. But
Yeah.
Wow. And that could have been a big turning point. You know, PSG had just gone up 2-0, and then, like, immediately Bale comes and answers, and then it gets wiped off the board, and from there it was like Real Madrid was just like, there's talk Zidane's not going to make it through the year.
Yeah.
Which is a little crazy, but at the same time, you know, there's heat there because Zidane came back and said, this is what I want, and didn't get what he wanted over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
He got a lot of what he wanted, but he didn't get the key piece that he wanted was Paul Pogba.
Mm-hmm.
Because apparently he thinks Paul Pogba's a world beater. Okay. Whatever. But, you know, there's bad blood there. The whole Bale and James situation. Apparently the president and Zidane are not seeing eye to eye. The results have not been good in La Liga. Obviously, this is a bad result for them in the Champions League because, yeah, you know, obviously Real Madrid expect to go through in this group, but I mean, this is the only real competition you got, and they just blew you off the field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't like, oh man, you know, we lost a hard-fought 2-1 match where they scored in the 92nd minute to beat us at home. No, you got freaking waxed and didn't show that much fight. And that's the one big thing with Zidane's Real Madrid that you've always come to expect is they're going to be up for the fight.
Yeah.
And it's a little disconcerting, I would think, to Madrid fans to see your team basically looking like they rolled over on the road.
Yeah, still, I mean, again, still plenty of time to wrap up. Galatasaray and Bruges, not the hardest of teams going forward, and still another shot at PSG at the Bernabeu. So that is still points to be had there. But yeah, this is a team that has they've looked to be getting slower and older, really starting with that last Champions League they won with Ronaldo. And then as he left, obviously some of the magic left, but some of the guys they were leaning on, kind of like Spain did towards the end of their big run in international play. They won the World Cup in 2010. This is sort of how they looked at the end too. They look old and slow in a lot of areas, which is weird to say about Real Madrid. And when they just bought Eden Hazard, that shouldn't be the case. But
well, it's kind of like the thing with Madrid right now. When you look at that roster, there are very few guys who are in their prime. You've got a lot of guys who were great players who are just out of their prime. You know, the Ramoses, Toni Kroos, those guys, they're just outside their prime. And then you've got these young guys coming through, the Vinicius Jr., the guy they started center back today, who they just got from Porto, Militao. You know, they've got a lot of really high-end young players. They just don't have a lot of guys in that 25 to 29 range who are in their prime. That's something that, like, you know, that's Eden Hazard, that's Rafael Varane, that's what those guys are supposed to be. And both of those are guilty of kind of being shit so far.
Yeah.
So, I think, you know, it's a tough time for Madrid, and I think they're in one of those transition phases right now.
Yeah, and that's just it's weird because I was gonna come into this podcast being like, you know, hey, because we talked about it some over the summer and going into this season that the continent as a whole might be transitioning over the last couple of years, where we saw so much Spanish dominance in the league, and now we're seeing the English renaissance in the Champions League with City being so dominant, granted at a domestic level, but also, I mean, again, the last 2 years, they've only been knocked out by other English teams. And those two teams who've knocked them out met in the final last year, and one of those was coming off a loss in the previous final. So there is a passing of the torch, and Real Madrid, where they are right now, I think that's the perfect word, transition. And I think Barcelona might be feeling a little bit of that as well. So definitely a spot where a lot of these Spanish teams, dominant just a few years ago, are now very much in transition. We'll see.
And I think right now, and obviously we'll talk more about Barca here in a few moments, I think Barca's window is they still have their window cracked to try to win the Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
I think this Madrid team, their window is shut right now. I don't think Madrid's in the Champions League.
Yep. And obviously we can also talk a little bit about Atletico as well here coming up in just a little bit. We go into Group B, though. Bayern Munich with a comfortable 3-0 victory over Red Star. Kingsley Coman with the opener in that one. Lewandowski and Thomas Muller with goals in the second half to push them ahead. Tottenham, though, go up 2-0 early in Athens over Olympiacos, but do end up giving away one at the end of the first half, and then a Thomas Valbuena penalty in the second half. I'm sorry, Mathieu Valbuena. Not Thomas, Matthew, gets the penalty in the second half to put Olympiacos back on level terms in a draw eerily reminiscent of the Arsenal match just a few weeks ago for Spurs. Tottenham do get the point, though, on the road as they will split second place with Olympiacos for now as Bayern top the group. But Wes, excuse me, I got a little bit of dry mouth there for a second. Bayern Munich beating Red Star in the Allianz, no surprise. We know Red Star can be a little bit of a bear in Belgrade, but on the road, not so much. Tottenham, on the one hand, getting the draw on the road in conditions in Athens, which, I mean, I've been very accustomed to the weather in Greece for the last few weeks. It's really hot. It's a proper North Carolina summer they're having over there right now. So with that, you think, okay, 1 point on the road, that's not a bad result. But giving up the 2-goal lead, that is tough. And does speak to still a little bit of Spurs trying to maybe figure out their best lineup with Dele Alli getting his first start on the season. Davinson Sanchez playing right back instead of center back as he's been accustomed to. So Spurs still trying to figure some things out, but not, as disastrous as a start as their last Champions League campaign, which needed the miracle run at the end just to get out of groups.
Right. It's a result that'll piss you off just because it seems like you're seeing this too much from Tottenham this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the thing for Tottenham is for so long under Pochettino, their great strength has been at the back, has been on the defensive side of the ball, which was, if Tottenham gets a lead on you, you can just about wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
And now, sort of like we were just saying about Real Madrid, at the back, Tottenham have gotten old fast.
Mm-hmm.
Sanchez is still somewhat of a work in progress.
Yeah.
I don't think they're fully settled in the fullbacks like they would want to be. I just think right now the back, that's where Tottenham are having issues. Midfield, they've got a chance to be super good in midfield, and of course we know they can attack and they can score.
Mm-hmm.
We know that. Basically a much richer man's version of Arsenal right now.
Yes.
But I do think that's where Tottenham are having their issues, is they're shipping goals, and it's really disheartening when you get a lead and then start shipping goals.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, once again, been there, done that, lived that life. For Tottenham going forward, they've got to figure that out, not only in the Champions League, but also in the Premier League, because that's something that can turn really frustrating really fast.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw maybe the Crystal Palace match going up 4-0 in the first half and having a very professional close in the second half there. Right. Might have been sort of a revelation. Maybe if an actual right back plays next match with Serge Aurier not actually making the trip, most likely will be starting this weekend against Leicester. Maybe that irons itself out a little bit, but yes, definitely something to keep an eye on for Spurs moving forward. Group C, City wins 3-0 over Shakhtar. Zagreb beats Atalanta 4-0. Okay, cool.
That's the only one that kind of surprised me. I'm not going to get into it, but I didn't think Atalanta was going to take it quite like that. But.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the first time I imagine, I don't know this for a fact, so I'm kind of just talking out of my ass here, but I imagine this is the first Champions League match for a lot of these guys in Atalanta. So maybe a little bit of nerves to go into Croatia for your first Champions League match and try to deal with that. Group doesn't get any easier for them as they do get to host at the San Siro Shakhtar in a couple weeks' time, but yeah, tough for them. And then City just did City things. Let's see. We go to Group D. Lokomotiv Moscow with a 2-1 win on the road against Bayer Leverkusen. That's a big result. But potentially even bigger, as you alluded to earlier, Wes, Juventus cruising. Hey, it can happen to Tottenham. It can happen to Real Madrid. It can happen to Arsenal. Hey, it can even happen to Juventus. Go 2-0 up at the Wanda Metropolitano. Quadrado and Blas Matuidi with goals, and you think, oh boy, the Italians, they're cruising. They're ready to win this thing. But in the final 20 minutes, Atletico comes back with a pair of goals to save the match, including Hector Herrera at the death for Atletico to give Diego Simeone's men a much-needed point at home against a team that you would think they'd be fighting to top this group. And while, again, we just talked about Tottenham feeling kind of bad about dropping a couple points on the road when they could have had the win, they take the draw. If you're Atletico, even though, yes, you're at home, man, to steal a point against Juventus when you were down 2-0, that is big time for them.
Oh, very much big time. Tell you, man, Juventus, I guess my little theme of Champions League talk thus far has been about the windows being open.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I think Juventus are kind of on the edge of having that window open, being able to break through. And for some unknown to God reason, they said, man, you know what we need? We need Mauricio Sarri to take us there. Jeez, you talk about butchering a damn hire. I mean, I think Sarri is going to be the difference in them potentially winning the Champions League and not. I don't trust Mauricio Sarri.
That's fair.
I don't think he's that good of a manager. Here you are, Juventus. I mean, God, you've got Ronaldo. You've put this expensive team together. And, I mean, God, it's like building a Corvette and dropping like a Chevy Nova engine into it or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand it, but I think that's going to be their downfall. And you saw it today. You've seen it thus far in this season. That I don't think they have the mentality under Sarri to be able to close out really good teams and to take horse to win La Liga this year. Mm-hmm. You want to call him a dark horse at this point for it. But, I mean, I was just really impressed with Atletico's comeback, but also kind of a feeling of, I can see that happening to Juventus at this point.
You know,
and on the other end of that group, Leverkusen losing at home, a lot of the experts were thinking, Leverkusen, they're going to be the ones to go through instead of Atletico. Shit, you can't beat Locomotive at home? It ain't getting easier for y'all.
Yeah.
This is one you got to win.
Yeah, that's rough. That is rough. Didn't score a goal by themselves. The one goal they did score was an own goal in that one. So that is rough. Real quick, just before we run to Group B, and this is something that just popped in my head with what you've been kind of talking about. We've been talking about windows. I know you are a Liverpool fan, and you would love to see them win their 7th European Cup. I beat you to it this time. Besides Liverpool, who do you think would be the favorite right now to win this year's Champions League?
There's a really good article on ESPN FC this week. I may not agree with everything in it, but it is a good article that says, unless your name is Liverpool, Man City, or Barcelona, you're not winning the Champions League.
Okay.
I can kind of get with that.
Okay.
I think those are definitely your three favorites. Obviously, Liverpool have won it. Barcelona have Messi, and I guess they've improved over the offseason.
Sure.
And Man City, it just seems like if they can just avoid another English team.
Yeah.
Because no one on the continent has really proven that they can knock City out of the tournament. So I think right now those are your favorites. But the problem with City is, just like we said with, well, I'll say this, over knockout, Laporte not being there might not be quite as big a loss as it is for the whole season in the Premier League.
Okay.
You can kind of hide things over two legs of a leg.
Mm-hmm.
But I think those are your three favorites. I think Atletico could go and win it. I think if things really fell perfectly, I think Dortmund could possibly win it.
Oh, okay.
But Dortmund would be like my ultimate long shot. But there are a lot of big and like I said, I think the window is open for Juventus.
Mm-hmm.
But I think unfortunately they hired a guy who just slammed the window down on the fingers.
Sorry.
More ways than one.
Yeah. So now, after that little interlude, we'll head to Group E. Red Bull pound gank. They got ganked. 6-2 is the scoreline. One of the Red Bull teams to win on the week. I believe the other one won as well. Yes, they did. So we'll get to that one a little later, though. But also in this group, Napoli, just as they did last year, they beat Liverpool in Italy. So, hey, there you go. It did take a late-on penalty that Dries Mertens was able to convert. And then Nando does what poachers do. Fernando Llorente comes and takes in a bit of a miscue in the back from Liverpool, a rare miscue from Virgil van Dijk, and gets his goal in the 92nd minute to give Napoli the 2-0 victory. And a match that even Carlo Ancelotti said at the end, right before the Mertens scored the penalty, looked like Liverpool was in position to score the winner at some point and take the 3 points in Naples. But the things just conspired a little bit, and Napoli, again, as they did last year, do take the points. And obviously, since we learned nothing from last year with Liverpool losing every road match they played in the group stage last year, Klopp out. It's obvious.
Klopp out, FSG needs to sell him, Michael Edwards doesn't know what he's doing, all the typical shit. It's there. The only thing they don't have to blame now is Mignolet.
There you go.
Because, hey, he had a 0-0 in his games. We'll talk Liverpool Napoli first, and I'll hit a little quick thing on Salzburg. 2-0, but like Ancelotti said, like I think a lot of people feel, that match was absolutely there for the taking for Liverpool, and I think that was as even a match back and forth as you'll see.
Mm-hmm. It was a great one.
It was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, I enjoyed watching it, even with us losing at the end. I enjoyed watching it. Liverpool missed some chances when they had them. There was one 2-on-1 break where we had Salah and Mane, and Mane just left the ball just a little too far out for Salah to be able to turn and finish. Mo got a ball off of one of the Napoli defenders trying to make a clearance, ended up clearing behind him right to Salah. Salah did everything on earth he should have done, fired a fantastic shot toward the outside. Napoli keeper got a hand on it.
Yep.
Nothing in the world you could do on that. I mean, it was a phenomenal save. Both keepers came up big with some really good saves. Adrian had two saves back to back in the first half that were just fantastic Napoli shots. That is just great goalkeeping to keep them out. As for the penalty, I'm of the thought that why the hell do we even have VAR at this point in Europe? If that's what happens, I've heard both sides of this, and I've heard people as far as like Liverpool great Stevie Nichols saying, well, Andy Robertson, he left that foot out there, and that's going to get a penalty call. So he left his foot out there. It was a penalty. Well, okay, he may have left his foot out there. But homeboy didn't touch his foot. There was no contact. How's that a penalty when there's no contact? So, of course, we have VAR. I'm literally sitting watching the match going, hey, it's okay. VAR saw that shit. We'll get that right. No. And then the second goal, I mean, that came late. After the first goal, I don't know. That second goal didn't bother me nearly as much as the first one. Llorente just, as you said, Nando doing Nando things. It's what he does. He stands in places, gets the ball, and scores.
Yep.
So good on him. Big difference between last year's match and this year's match.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, at 70 minutes, Liverpool literally looked like half the team was going to keel over and die.
Hmm.
And that's how they were playing on the night. At 70 minutes the other night, Liverpool turned it up a notch. And that is so scary for Premier League teams, for Champions League teams going forward. Liverpool did not have any of their finishing boots on for the night. And yet, at the 70-minute mark, in a brutally hot Naples, in a very hostile territory, Liverpool were the ones who turned up the intensity and turned up the heat.
Mm-hmm.
All they were missing was the goal. End of the day, they do lose the match. This is nowhere near a blow for Liverpool. As you said, they lost all three away matches last year. I don't think they're going to lose all three away matches this year. If anything, Gink has shown us not really a lot of competition there. Liverpool will be fine. Those two teams should be the ones that go through. I don't think anyone with half a brain who's a Liverpool fan or in the Liverpool team or management staff is too overly worried after this match. Yes, there are things that need to be straightened out, but you know what? I have zero doubt and zero disbelief in Jurgen Klopp that he's going to be able to do these things. And also to top it off, Carlo Ancelotti did make a comment to Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah.
He said, Jurgen, he said the last time you lost in Naples in the Champions League, things turned out okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely zero panic on my end. If anything, I'm going to take this as one of those, hey, you know what? We took a loss. Now we can refocus on Chelsea and remember that we're not absolutely unbeatable. And at this point in time, I would rather lose in the group stage of the Champions League than lose in the Premier League.
Remember.
So, there we go.
Remember, kids. Go ahead.
No, you go right ahead. You got to remember for that.
I was just going to say, remember, kids, lose is improve. Lose is improve. Remember that.
On the other end, Salzburg they were super impressive, going to games and just leveling them. I do not have the kid's name in front of me, but a 19-year-old who scored the hat trick. Apparently that did good. Yeah. Really impressive youngster. Poor guy, he did so well that he's now being linked with Arsenal.
You hate to see it.
Poor guy. You hate to see that for anybody, but now linked with Arsenal.
Tough.
Because, scoring is Arsenal's problem.
Totally is.
Yeah, that's what they need. They need more forwards.
Oh, man. Well, we'll take it to Group F from those dramatics. 1 point across the board for all four teams. Dortmund and Barcelona draw 0-0, and Dortmund actually with a penalty miss in this one that could have given them the win, which would have been a huge way to start their Champions League group stage. Also huge, Slavia Prague nearly beating Inter in Milan. They had the 63rd minute goal from Peter Olienka, but a late goal from Nicolo Barella gets Inter the point at home. And Wes, I think Inter was a team we were sort of excited about. It's like, yeah, they kind of have a lot of United's rejects. Like, that was the joke. But they at least, felt like a team that could challenge maybe Dortmund and Barcelona to try and get out of this group. But, man, if you need a last-minute equalizer against Slavia Prague at home, that does not bode well for you in the Champions League.
Well, don't forget, some of those guys do still have the Manchester United stink on them.
That's fair. That's a good point.
That doesn't just go away overnight. But, that's a really disappointing result for Inter, considering, they're the top 3 team in that group, and it's a really tough group. You've got to take your points against Prague. Mm-hmm. You get a chance. We remember the Slavia Prague manager, the director's face when he saw the group they were drawn in. And now they've gone and gotten a point in match day 1. Inter, when Inter don't go through, this is going to be the match that they look at and go, well, we put ourselves there.
Yep.
Yeah. You've got to take off. Every team in that group is thinking my automatic 3 points is Slavia Prague above. Mm-hmm. So, and Inter furthers away.
Well, that is tough for them, but Dortmund and Barcelona do again split their points in Dortmund, so Barcelona, I think, just happy to come out of that the way with avoiding the penalty, getting a point there.
Yeah, and I think they're thrilled because God, Marco Reus should have had a freaking hat trick in that match.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell happened to him all of a sudden. I'm talking close, 5-6 yards from the goal and blazing over, missing wide, just ugh. I don't know what happened to Royce, but Royce could have really had a night for the record books.
Well, they will have to recover because next Dortmund head to Prague, which is so full of life now after getting that draw in Inter. So we'll see how that goes for Dortmund. Over in Group G, the other Red Bull team, Leipzig, they get the 2-1 win on the road against Benfica. Timo Werner with the pair of goals in that one gets Leipzig all 3 points. And Zenit draws Lyon in France. Lyon needing a second-half Memphis Depay goal on a penalty to come back in that one. So Leipzig right now topping this group, Zenit and Lyon with 1, Benfica with 0. Still a very tight group, and Wes, this is kind of a group where we were thinking any combination of these two teams could come out. Leipzig, who struggled a little bit last year coming to the Champions League for the first time. Yeah, for the first time, now coming in as seasoned veterans. They start off with a road win. That is a big confidence booster, and this is a group that they can absolutely win if they manage to do right the rest of the way and get some big results, against Lyon and take care of business where they need to, especially at home.
That's right. Leipzig are an extremely good, I guess, in basketball we would call them a low seed. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this is Leipzig who, through 4 matches, sit on top of the Bundesliga. They're not any sort of a pushover at all. They've started their season very well. They're playing very good football. They've got a lot of really high quality players. I'm expecting Leipzig to find their way out of this group this season, and kind of continue on to that building to really being something. Red Bull is kind of hit gold with Leipzig so far.
Yep, and they are atop the group because of that. Zenit right now in second on tiebreaker. And finally, Group H. Ajax and Valencia topping this group. Ajax maybe not so surprising. Lille did come in with some clout. But Ajax with the big 3-0 victory at home over them in Amsterdam. But then Valencia, team in turmoil. They hate their coach. And they have to go to Stamford Bridge against Chelsea, against vaunted youth leader, revolutionary man, Frank Lampard and his ragtag group of kids. And they
call him Sir Frank yet?
they might as well. They might have taken off that knighting off the schedule for this one though. Valencia come out of London with a 1-0 victory. Ross Barkley with the missed penalty there. This is
what happens. He's too old of an English player to take the chance.
That's the galaxy brain right there. In all seriousness though, this is a group we thought it could be interesting, but I think we expected Chelsea to top it. And again, very early on, still 5 matches left out of your 6, to lose at home to a Valencia team that is struggling as badly as it is, to lose like this is not a result you want to start with. And just now you have to go to Lille in your next match, and then you have to go to Ajax in your third one. I mean, Chelsea could be staring at 1 point in 3 matches. Or 2 points. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think right now Ajax have kind of jumped to the head of this group as your definite favorite. I think people kind of forgot that Ajax are still good, even if they did lose to Ligt, and they did lose the other one.
The other one, yeah.
The one in Barcelona now.
Yes.
Just something, whatever. For Chelsea, a really, really disappointing loss, especially at Stamford Bridge. They looked disjointed. They didn't look like they had that free flow that they kind of found in the Premier League of late.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I mean, even though it is Chelsea, some of that could be nerves.
Sure, it's a young group. We mean, but it's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a young group, and unfortunately, a guy like Ross Barkley's one who, Ross Barkley was the former next big thing for England.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't exactly work out for him. And it was interesting for him to take the penalty kick and not Willian, and it just kind of went to shit for Chelsea at that point. But Chelsea still have a good chance to go through, but they've just they've got to find their way of playing Europe, because it is different than playing.
Absolutely. So rough start to the group there for Chelsea, but they again do have some time to bounce back. Still 5 matches to be played in this group stage. The next taking place on the week of October 2nd and 1st, so October 1st and 2nd for most people who speak English. That's when we'll next see our Champions League teams in play. Europa League starts tomorrow. That's the thing that's happening. Don't worry, I'm sure we'll talk about it next week. Probably not. So that's our match.
Well, I mean, we can at least. Never mind. I'm just thinking that Arsenal are going to blow it 2-0 lead.
Hey, it could happen. Hey, we'll talk about Wolves. We'll talk about them. Hey, news and notes. A lot of this was already touched on. Aymeric Laporte will be out about 5 to 6 months. Some are pegging him back maybe in terms of Champions League football, back to the quarters if City make it that far, is when he'll be back. And again, John Stones will also be out for at least a couple weeks, as he is also injured. So again, big trouble there for City. Also an injury for Alexander Lacazette of Arsenal. He might be back in action in October after he's having some issues with his left ankle. And finally, news and notes. It's an interesting story because I kind of thought this had already been finished, but no, it's not now. Now is when it's actually done. Right when he's been struggling for a while. David De Gea is United's keeper through 2023. It's finally locked in there. Yep. Yep, there you go.
He wanted to be the highest paid player at United. So let's reward mediocrity.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Hey, he's 28, so he'll be, I don't know, 33. Still prime age when this contract is over. So
he's a goalkeeper, so
yeah,
we'll see. I'm sure Ed Woodward, negotiated completely against himself when he usually does.
Absolutely. Especially to get this done after the transfer window closes. Oh, never change, Ed Woodward.
Beyond special.
Very. Hey, speaking of special though, let's hit the watch for. Wes, you talked about you watched a couple movies, but anything else you've been watching in the week that was or the week that will be?
I've continued my Breaking Bad.
Yes.
I am all the way nearly through season 2 at this point. It's crazy. It was a really good show. I wish someone had ever talked about it when it came on the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I've been watching that. I went and saw It Chapter 2 today.
Did you see it Chapter 1?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just make sure.
The first one, that's why, yeah. Second one.
I just didn't know if you really wanted to see James McAvoy.
Sure, why not? Well, I didn't exactly go for him. But
Okay.
Anyway. Jessica Chastain.
There you go.
Woo!
A lot of redheads in that movie.
Oh, gotta let them redhead. If you like the first It, why wouldn't you go see it? I mean, it carries right on. I read the book a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was pretty fitting to the book.
Okay.
I'll give it to it. It was a good movie. I mean, it wasn't my favorite movie I've ever seen. To me, horror movies don't. I'm not scared. I'm sorry.
Mm.
I went to Busch Gardens this past weekend. I went through 6 haunted houses. I don't think I jumped once.
Mm.
I just don't get scared of stuff like that. I get scared of like real world stuff, like someone from the 2020 Democratic Party coming. Oh Jesus God!
You mean like when we find out a Russian factory that had E. coli in it exploded?
Exactly. That's the shit that scares me. I mean, just say AR-15 confiscation, I get a chill down my spine. That's how I. Anyway, though, I mean, it was a good movie. It was a fitting ending to it. It had some really nice moments that they didn't totally burn in the previews, which I will give it that It Chapter 2 had really good trailers and previews that came out promoting it, and they kind of gave away a lot of the good stuff, but at the same time they held back on some of it. So it was very. I enjoyed it. It was good. I won't watch it again anytime soon. This was a good movie. There is a very controversial part in it that has a lot of people up in arms. I mean, all they did was, remain true to the book that the movie was made off of. Sorry if it hurt somebody's feelings in 2019. Oh man. Basically the opening scene of the movie, where violence is committed upon a gay couple. But that was in the book, and shit does happen. Once again, sorry if anyone got offended by a movie. Yeah. Anyway. But other than that, man, like I said, if you like the original It, if you like It 1, go see it 2. It does not disappoint as a sequel. It does not disappoint.
I think for my what we got here, the watch for. I'm looking forward. Fall TV is back. it's quickly approaching. We are, I'm looking at my weather app on my phone, and I'm not seeing highs in the 90s anymore. That's good. That's really good as we were about to hit fall here in late September. But hey, I'm just looking at my app, and Superstore and The Good Place are back next week, and I'm excited about that. I'm very, very much looking forward. Of course, The Good Place is the final season coming up here. Season 4 will be the final season, so that will be very exciting to watch that and see how that story ends. Also, do want to give a quick shout, because it's what I've been listening to on the way to work the past couple days. Because speaking of The Good Place, creator Michael Schur, who we love, because he also did Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Parks and Recreation. Nine-Nine! Can't wait for that to be back on either. But so he does a podcast, as I've mentioned on this podcast before, with Joe Posnanski, who's a writer on The Athletic, called The Poscast. And they do it together. And this week, they happen to do 2 episodes this weekend from the friendly confines of Wrigley Field in Chicago, with special guest for both episodes, Nick Offerman. Yes, Ron Swanson himself became a special guest on these 2 episodes of the podcast. And it is, if you are a fan of baseball and meaninglessness and Ron Swanson, I appeal to you.
Yes, I am. I'm all.
Go check this out. If you want to hear more people hate on the Oakland Raiders, go check out especially the first episode of the 2. But all in all, it's a great. This podcast is always great. The podcast, I love shilling for other people for free. The podcast is always great. Michael Schur and Joe Posnanski are always fantastic. But adding Nick Offerman into that mix is just wonderful. It is chef's kiss. So I suggest everyone go out there. It's free. First episode's like 2 hours long. Second is an hour and a half. So if you find yourself on a commute somewhere and you need to kill some time, you could do worse. You could do better, but you could also do a lot worse than this. So go check that out. That is the Poscast. Poscast. Check that out. That's not a POS. And maybe wrestling hasn't been a POS lately either, Wes. So maybe we should get So Elite Raw?
Yeah, we'll talk a little old grappling tonight.
All right.
Real quick, just did want to update you as I'm coming through lovely Wilson, North Carolina, on Interstate 95 right now.
Beautiful.
It is 62 degrees out tonight.
Glorious.
It is quite magical. I'm glad I took my long sleeve with me when I left the house this morning.
Very good call. Very good call.
Oh. Speaking of most glorious, So Elite Raw. The big story of the week, and there was some good stuff. But the big story of the week, NXT premiered. Well, it's technically still Wednesday for another 5 minutes as we pod right now. NXT premiered on USA Network tonight. Wednesday night. Tonight. Hell yeah. I have recorded it, and we're looking forward to seeing it. Probably tomorrow sometime. It will not be tonight, I'll tell you that. And the Undisputed Era holds all the gold in NXT right now, including the NXT champion, Adam Cole, baby. We had a King of the Ring crowned this past Monday night on Raw. It was Baron Corbin. Yeah.
Yay.
Clash of Champions was this past Sunday, and unfortunately, I don't know all the results. But I know AJ Styles still has the U.S. title. Lee Rollins is still the Universal Champion. Kofi Kingston is still a WWE Champion. And on SmackDown, the last little thing I'll say, on SmackDown, Brock Lesnar showed up F5 Kofi Kingston, so it looks like he's coming after Kofi's WWE Championship. And we are, if you have been watching TNT any, you're starting to see the promos for AEW, which will be starting, I think it's in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's October, middle of October, I believe it's starting on TNT. They've been some really good promos, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm trying, folks. Slowly trying to get back into it, just for you all at home. So, it's a short one, not a lot to it, but that was this week's Solo Elite Raw. Hopefully next week I'll have you a little more for something.
Well, we will see.
I'm going to throw down the gauntlet on myself to have you guys a little more next week.
Boom! It's been thrown down. The steel gauntlet of doom, infinity. There you go. So that's going to do it, though, for this episode of the A Foreign Affair podcast. I want to give a shout to our podcast presenters, including NGSC Sports, as well as Alicia's Pillows and Things. You can find them on the social media, as well as us on Twitter. We are, as a collective, at AFA Pod. Wes, you are?
I'm at West Brad 1221.
I am at Edward Green. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube via our parent show, The All New Sports Show. And you can email us at allnewsportshow@gmail.com. Thanks to our podcast providers, including Podbean.com, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, the TuneIn Radio app, Google Play Music, and the iTunes Music Store. So, again, we will be back next week, though, for another great edition of the A Foreign Affair podcast. We'll be talking about this upcoming weekend in Premier League action. Like I said, if we remember, we'll talk about Wolves and some of the rest of Europa. Hey, maybe Arsenal will blow a 3-goal lead. It'll be even better. So, hey, it could happen. Fingers crossed, guys. So we'll maybe talk about that. And I'm sure more news and notes and craziness. And again, with some of the big fall TV premiering. Hey, we didn't even talk about NBC announced their streaming service, which is going to be called Peacock for some reason. I get it. That's their logo, but still it's a dumb name. And maybe some more wrestling. But before we get out of here and before Wes puts his car into park, Wes, anything else you'd like to add?
High school football. We
Ooh.
are in full swing. Week 5 of the high school season is here already. Is this week 5? Yeah. Yes, week 5. And we have got some damn big football games on tap this week just in our area. The one I'll be covering, Tarboro, the number 1 1A team in the state of North Carolina, taking on the number 5 2A team in the state of North Carolina, Southwest Edgecombe.
Oh, my.
That's a massive hatred rivalry anyway. And then you add that both of them are 2 of the top-ranked teams in the state. That's big time. Rocky Mountain, coming off a 35-0 shellacking of J.H. Rose. You know how big that is to go
Yes.
beat the hell out of Rose and to shut them out.
Yes.
Rocky Mountain is ranked 10th in the state in 3A. They are taking on the 4th-ranked 2A team in the state, Northeastern, this week. So that's a big showdown matchup for the Griffons, a chance to see where they are. Their only blemish on the season, a loss to Tarboro in a game that was, as we mentioned, Tarboro won 30-plus straight games at this point, and that game was ended before halftime. I do have an explanation on that. I'll give it to you off the air.
Oh, fantastic.
I do have an explanation. Given to me by JC himself, Jeff Craddock. So, our Lord and Savior, Jeff Craddock.
Yes.
Amazing. Anyway, man, that's what I got. High school football in full swing. Baseball is basically dead to me this year, but I'll probably watch some of the playoffs anyway.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for the memories, Dave Dombrowski.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. So it got us a ring. So I guess that's what important.
Next general manager of the Boston Red Sox, Jurgen Klopp.
Pulling the double duty. He'll fly back and forth across the ocean. That's what he'll say as JD Martinez keeps hitting home runs. He's pretty good. Just like this podcast is pretty good, even as it's about to come to an end. So, folks, From my Colin Crime, West Bradshaw, I am Edward Green. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Foreign Affair podcast. Until next time, everyone, stay safe and enjoy the football.
And good night, Lily White side of the trip. Oh, gosh, it's looking one today.
It's not looking too good for Zinedine Zidane.
This show is sponsored by Alicia's Pillows and Things. Check out the Facebook page, Alicia's Pillows and Things, where you will find home decor you will not be able to resist at prices anybody can afford. Check out the pillows and stools of your favorite sports teams. Maybe you want a set of your kid's favorite cartoon or movie character. You can also get full body and neck pillows as well. Log on to ngscsports.com and go to the Alicia's Pillows and Things tab on the homepage to complete your order. It makes a great gift for Christmas at an affordable price. NGSC Sports. We never stop.
You're listening to NGSC Sports Radio. Hear us live on NGSCsports.com, where you can get awesome analysis for all things sport. Or check out our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, iTunes, TuneIn, and much more. For our latest videos, head to NGSC Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at NGSC Sports and like us on Facebook. NGSC Sports. We never stop.